Hey, this is Max. Welcome back to another CSR2 video. Today I'm here with the ARC Performance Veloster. So this is this season's Prestige Cup car, and we're going to talk a little bit today both about supply cup tuning as well as a little bit of a quick overview of the Stage 6 effects of this car. So this particular Veloster in one of my accounts is currently set up with Stage 5 upgrades, but I did not install any fusions yet. And without any fusions, by tuning to maximum Evo setting, at least about as close as I'm going to get it to max Evo, we're looking at something like 131 final Evo, which gives you a 11.760 dyno. That is setting the car to top out at the speed, final speed in third gear. Now, obviously, if I put it to fourth gear, then there's a possibility I can still tune it to the same numbers, but you have to increase grip. However, as you can see, it's a little bit harder to get that 130 point number in fourth gear. I can tweak it around it a little bit. I may be able to get it, but looks like 120 something is what you end up with. So it's going to be a little bit slower on the dyno. However, on third gear, it's actually a little bit faster, but of course the grip would have to be a lot less at 45. But as you can see, 132 here now, 11.758. Now, with this setting, how hard is it to beat dyno? Well, that's one of the important questions when it comes to supply cup. If you can't tune the car to beat dyno, your supply cup runs are going to be a little bit trickier and a little bit tougher. Not to say that you can't do it. You can even do it with a stock car if you know how to drive the car well. So what we're talking about here is just making things easier for ourselves. But let's take a look at a standard test run in third gear and a standard test run in fourth gear, and then we'll talk about what happens when you put the drive to, let's say, second gear. All right, let's start off with a third gear run. Now remember, our dyno says 11.758, right? So I want to be able to get close to at least that. Car seems to like nitrous in second, and since you're going to run out in third, you're just going to run the car down the track in third gear. And if all goes well, it'll go right through at a decent time and close to the top speed. So 11.725 does beat our dyno number, which says 11.758, right? So that's a good thing. Now, that's very small margin of dyno beating right now. Could it be better? Well, sure. I mean, if you play around with this, sometimes you can get it to a different set of numbers and hopefully be able to get a dyno beating setup. But just putting it to fourth gear probably isn't going to do that. What it does is, though, is make it dyno a little bit slower. It probably wouldn't even change your settings as far as running it. But let's see what fourth gear gets us. All right, so we're here with fourth gear being the top speed, which means there's going to be a little more shifting involved. I came out of first a little quick there, but it's not complete loss here. There should still be a half decent run. If you notice, we are still looking at a 11.72 run, which is still a little better than the 11.778, right? So you're still beating dyno by a little bit, but not really all that much. So again, we're talking about no fusions here. So in this situation, it looks like third gear might be a little better. But what about if we really took it down and put it to second gear, all the way here? Now, this is interesting here. You will see that there's actually what I would call a cliff drop point with the tunings. Notice we're slowly going towards positive. At some point, we'll hit the spot where it's going to run into a slightly different setting. Right there. Okay, so you just went from positive 57 or 58, and within a few clicks, we're going to get to the drop right there. So this brings you to a negative it's a 12.3 dyno versus a positive evo point of 11.9. That gives you a little bit of margin right there, about 4/10. That's going to make supply cup way easier, but you have to drive the car completely differently. Let's take a look at it. With this setting, your driving technique is going to be completely different in that you cannot launch perfect because you get 0 RPM drop. So what you're going to do is you're going to launch a little early, but then you're going to use nitrous in first gear because you're only running through 2 gears. Once you launch and hit nitrous and get that first gear done, you're just riding it out. But even though you're doing that, as you can see, it'll still run the 11.9, but now it's running 4/10 under. And again, this is still without any fusions. So for either supply cups, this is the tune. You're going to tune to second gear and run it. Okay, Max, that's great. That's with no fusions. What happens if I add fusions? What if my car was closer to fully maxed? And what happens when I get stage 6s? Well, we're going to look at that too. Let's go to the Mysterious Stranger account and let's take a look at the difference when you have fusions versus when you don't have any, as I have now. Okay, let's take a look at the next account and a different car. And here now we are with the Mysterious Stranger account and a different ARC performance velociter. This one has a lot more upgrades. In fact, it has all the upgrades, including stage 6s. What it is missing, though, are the epic fusions. For some reason, there are no epic fusions in this account, and I didn't bother to try to go get some, so I just left it off and put the other stuff. However, you do see that stage 6s are in here, so we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But first, let's go back and talk about supply cup tuning with fusions this time. Now, when this car gets fusions, it's obviously going to be a lot faster. So at stage 5 full fusion, you're actually going to dyno at 10.635. However, with fusions, things change a little bit with the tuning. If you leave it at 4th gear, okay, that's where we have it. 118 mile per hour is actually topped out in 4th gear, so you have a pretty aggressive gear setting. And as you can see, if you move it a little bit, you can actually get a little bit of a Evo drop, which is not a big deal. Now, you can also tune to 3rd gear, which actually gives you slightly higher. Kind of like what we saw earlier with no fusion, right? Now, whether you tune it to 3rd or 4th, it doesn't really make that much of a difference in the grand scheme of things as far as hitting the times that we're looking for dyno purposes. So let me just tweak it here to the highest I can. I believe 709, 710 might be, 712, 13. We're moving up. And that's it. So right around 3.01, we're looking at a 10.592 dyno. Okay? So let's run this now and see what the car is doing. So now we're talking about full fusion, stage 5, tuned to 3rd gear. Again, you're going to launch perfect. Woo, look at that. But then 2nd gear, nitrous, and we're going to run it out. When you have that little weird drop like that, it means your grip is actually right on the edge of an Evo drop because you have a little bit of a tricky spot there with the dyno. But notice how much it beat dyno by even without adjusting for 2nd gear tuning. 10.5, and we ran at 10.4. So you got about a 10th margin. So fusions help you with that. It'll make it easier for you to get a higher margin of dyno beating. So that's good. Now let's take a look at 2nd gear tune with the same concept we used before for the other car. Now notice I am slowly adding into, but notice how it's not jumping yet. It just kind of slowly but surely increases. So we're talking about a difference between 700 and 200 something. Now, mind you, you don't see that big single point burst increase that we saw earlier with the decrease with no fusion. Everything's kind of evened out, so it's moving this way. But this 2.0 tune, essentially, would still work. So here with 2.0, you're talking about 10.6 to 11.5. So you're talking about almost a second difference now. Second gear, again, launching's different, and nitrous will be first. But let's take a look at the difference. All right, so here we're going to launch it, and we're going to run like this, 3.5 to 3.8K. You can even do 3.0K, it'll still do the same thing. As long as you launch it before 4K, you shouldn't get a 0 RPM drop. 10.647 on a 11.5. So now you're running a whole second under dyno. So with fusions installed, you're now running almost a full second under dyno versus no fusion installed, you're running probably about 3/4 under dyno. So that again is where fusions come into play quite a bit. And you're going to have a little bit of variable here depending on how much fusion you have versus how much you have of other parts. So it's stage 3, stage 4, stage 2 upgrades. Because you can't really tune until stage 4 trans, I would say the minimum you should upgrade to is at least stage 4 trans, so you have the ability to tune this here in order to try to tweak it for supply cut. But let's be honest here, if you have stage 5 and some fusions, and you're running already 1/10 plus under dyno, you don't need to play with the tune to beat the supply cup. So this season supply cup should not be a big headache for most players. Okay, now let's take a look at something a little more different. When I can, I like to show the stage 6 effects of the car. And here we have the stage 6s. So we can't go through each and every one of them and show the upgrades, and that's what I'm going to do. But before we do that, let's go and refine tune the car back to where it was doing the best, which is right around here. Okay, so let's try to get over 700 points again. I think it was like 715 is what, right around 3. Oh, looks like I had a little more there, but anyway, let's put it to 25, which right here, 719, which is a little bit quicker than even what we did earlier. So 10.583 is the dyno at stage 5 only. Let's start looking at what the dynos will be with stage 6s individually. Mind you, I am not running stage 6s with the Epic Fusions, so you're talking about at least a few hundreds to maybe a little more than that difference once you put the fusions in. All right, so we're going to start off just taking a look at the engine. I can tell you right now, the biggest ones here does not involve engine, turbo, and intake. 10.556 from a 10.58 dyno means a 300s drop, right? Can I tweak it to try to get it to work a little better? I'm sure I could. Right here, see, you put a little more grip in there, it'll do something. Okay, that dropped it to a 10.52. So you're talking about really not much of a drop in overall performance. So engine, definitely not a strong stage 6 here. And that's a problem. When you have very weak stage 6s, and then having 1 or 2 maybe being king, that hurts you. Okay, so that now we have turbo in. And again, the computer is not even saying I really need to tweak it, but it never hurts to play with it a little bit. By lowering the final drive just a hair, you're able to eke out just a little more performance. I know I saw 38. There you go. Okay, maybe up to lower this just a hair. Nope. Raise it. Yep, there we go. And that's a 10.467. That's not that great either. I mean, we're talking about maybe a tenths drop here for turbo. So turbo is better than engine at this point, which is normally engine tend to trump turbo. So that's slightly surprising, although they both are still relatively weak. And again, we don't know until that final Epic Fusion goes in exactly which one does which. So we still have to kind of think about that. All right, now I put intake in and the computers tell me, oh, you don't need to even tweak it now. You got the perfect setting here. Well, the Evo certainly went up. And movement around this does not mean it's not improvables. Here we go. Low lower grip has increased it a bit. And I don't know if a little extra final grips. Nah, that didn't work. And if I keep lowering it, that doesn't mean it's going to work either. All right, so we'll just leave it be for now. This is probably not the top, but 10.504. So again, haven't even gotten as good as turbo. Although, you're going from like a 10.56 or 5.8 down to a 10.50. It's a little bit of a drop, but it's not much. So intake, not as strong as turbo. So here right now it's turbo, intake, engine in that order. So engine may come out on the bottom here in the end. All right, so nitrous. Nitrous obviously generally would be a big one, especially for tier 2 cars. Nitrous tend to be a big deal. With the duration change, we'll play with it. Notice the evo point is well above 730 of the intake, and that bodes well. That means it's going to do better than what intake did. But we still need to actually get this tuned to the numbers that we want. All right, 798 gives you a 10.3. So that one definitely dropped about 2/10, right? 10.5 to 10.3. So at least 2/10, a little more. So nitrous is a big one and certainly very helpful. And I hope we all get it. And that moves us forward to body. Now body, again, it says no tuning needed. I don't know why it's doing that. It might be a glitch. I'm pretty sure if you tune it, you can always get a little more out of it through tuning like I'm doing now. So you may want to disregard the fact the computer's telling you don't tune. 10.53, can it be a little more? Yes, it can. So it's definitely going to outperform some of the really low ones. 10.49. Okay, so it's getting up there to where we had turbo. That's not bad. I'm sorry, 10.4 is right around where turbo was. Okay, so we're moving along here. This is actually not bad. Body, turbo, intake, engine being on the bottom. So nitrous right now is on top. Okay, so that was body. Let's look at tire. So we're almost there. Tire and trans. So a quick look at tire. Again, going straight to the dyno. 10.556 without any fine tuning. And it probably has some margin to play with. Woo! That's good. Because that is a dyno buster right there. Okay? So tire may not give you much in way of performance, but it does affect your ability to break the dyno, so to speak. A little bit less grip may be helpful here, but not too much less. 10.528 puts it right down there alongside good old engine and intake. So it's not that impressive as a stage 6, although it does have the evo drop when combined with the other stage 6s. I mean, not stage 6, but stages, which gives you a possible dyno beating tune. Now, we're up to trans. This is the final one. Since we already seen, other than nitrous, everything kind of sucks. Trans has to be good, right? It has to be at least decent. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense. And it's not bad at all. In fact, it's pretty good. I'm going to have to go back and review the numbers to see if it, in fact, beats nitrous. I don't think so, though. Nitrous is 10.33 something. This is putting it close to body, which is a 10.44 something. So I think body still ekes it out a little bit. This is coming in a little bit under body. All right, so that gives us all of our stage 6s. Now let's talk about some interesting facts when you have the stage 6s installed, right? So if we install combinations, which usually means these guys, right? So these are 5 of the weaker overall stage 6s. But without, so far it's without epic fusions, but with all the other fusions. So how high can we get the evo point? It should go up a decent amount, right? Because we got 5 stage 6s in here. Even if we're missing just a little bit of epic fusions, that shouldn't make or break this as far as what this tune will give you. So with that, it's a 10.2. Now, can you go here and go more aggressive? Certainly. I can try again to go with 4th gear, which also comes in at around 10.2, but with a more aggressive tire setting. All right, so here I tweaked it to 766. That's a 10.243. But with these 5, we're going to run the car, right? This is a 4th gear tune, not a 3rd gear one. And if you move it to 3rd gear tune, does it get any better? Not really. Oh, wait, it beat it a little bit. So with 3rd gear tune, 10.231. So let's run with the 3rd gear tune just to see what we actually run. Now, if stage 5 only, you're already beating Dyno. Big questions, obviously. Now I have all these stage 6s. It should definitely beat Dyno, right? Well, maybe. But let's see how close it comes to it first. Okay, so here again, we're going to write out 3rd. Went through the traps. And 10.169. So it does beat Dyno by a little bit. Okay? So with that setup, you will beat Dyno by a little bit, but it's not a huge margin. What happens, let's say, if we use the other 2? Let's see what that brings us to. So that was 5 of the slower, less impactful stage 6s. Now we're going to go back and put in the 2 that seems to have the most impact. Which is trans and nitrous. Bit of retuning is definitely going to be needed here. I think it was 5.8. It was really liking that. Notice the evo numbers is already a lot greater than when we had it with the other total of 5 stage 6s. Okay, looks like quick 850 evo tune, 10.147. So it's a little bit better than that 10.2. But what will it run? Now we know this car is nitrous dependent, right? So here I'm running nitrous in trans stage 6. What is that going to do for us when you have this extra power nitrous? Look at that car go. Okay, 4th gear and through the traps. Now I let the needle bounce a little bit, so this is going to be a slightly slower run than what it should be. 10.027. Dyno 10.1. So you got the same margin of dyno beating as you had before. Now, obviously, if we tried a little bit different style of tuning with 4th gear, since now we have more stage 6 and more power, we can now go ahead and do a 4th gear tune and see what that does when we run it. Okay, 4th gear tune. Let's take a look. It ends up in 5th. So even though I tuned it to 4th to the highest evo, the car actually ended up running into 5th gear. Just like when we did 3rd, it went into 4th. But look at the difference here. 9.844 means you're beating dyno now by 3/10. And that's kind of the thing about Nitrous and Trans with this car. With those two stage sixes, you get a dyno buster. But without those stage sixes, you only get a slightly dyno beating car. So it's kind of an interesting effect from the stage six that you don't see very often with other cars, which is with certain stage sixes, all of a sudden it beats dyno by a ton. And without those stage sixes, you beat dyno by a little bit, or maybe even hard to beat dyno. This does happen with other cars. It just is very pronounced with this particular car. Okay, so we know now that this car is a pretty strong car when it comes to ability to be tuned. The stage sixes tell you that most of them are pretty useless. You really just need Nitrous and Trans, and without Epic Fusions, you should be able to beat the PC Cup. Because I really doubt the PC Cup is going to be much harder than 9.6, 9.7. We ran a 9.8 on that. I have a feeling it may even be as slow as 9.8, 9.9, if not 10. Mainly because the car ultimately only runs about a 9. And here, a second slower than that is not an unusual PC go. So I think PC Cup won't be as terrible as even last season because this is a brand new car. It's a Hyundai. But it's also tier 2, which isn't too hard to build. So I'm sure Natural Motion put some thought into all that and put a target number somewhere where they think it's challenging without being ridiculous. But let's just be honest here. Jumping from a 10.5 to a 9.8 is quite a jump, even if you get stage sixes. And that's talking about nearly full fusion. So a real fair run would be a little bit less than that. I would say 10.0, 9.9, 10.1. 10.1 is a little too generous. Maybe 9.9, 9.8 would not be an unfair final time for the PC Cup. All right, so we've kind of rambled on quite a bit about this car, along with different tuning with and without fusions. But bottom line is, it's a dyno beating car if you tune it right. It dyno beats its own times naturally without special fine tuning or anything. So it's a pretty good car overall. But being that it's a tier 2, being that its Evo is what it is, I'm not thinking that I will do much with this car after the PC Cup is done. In any case, that was the review of the ARC Performance Veloster. Please feel free to ask questions if anything I said in the video is confusing to you. If you have certain comments or you have your own findings about the car that you want to share, do share it in the comments. And please subscribe to the channel so that you can get notifications when I put up new videos. I've been on a little bit of a hiatus for the past 2 weeks, but I'm back and more videos will be forthcoming. And as always, thank you for watching my videos. I appreciate you checking into my channel and watching these videos. And good luck this season in the Prestige Cup. I'll catch you next time on another CSR2 video.